Aloha. Aloha, the Kingsley.
Hi, Fred.
How are you?
I'm okay. It's nice to see you today, and it's a late November day in 2015.
Isn't it
We're
nice?
a few days away from Thanksgiving, and I enjoy spending some time with my friend who's articulate and thoughtful.
Oh, yeah.
Now I've embarrassed him.
Well,
All right, the video's over. See you later.
I used to be sharp, pretty sharp. I was able to conduct a talk show and have no dead air. I can't anymore. I'm too busy thinking, what was that philosophy? I can't remember all that stuff anymore.
So if I were to offer a humble suggestion, when I look at our camera,
Yeah.
it looks to me like I'm right in the middle of the lens. I'm worried you might actually be off screen.
No, I'm not. I checked that.
All right.
I'm a good. But now you made me, I'll check it. Don't move, I'll check it. My wife does this. All right, I'll move it a little over. I was in it, but...
Why don't you stand where you would normally stand at your mark, and then I'll go over to the screen and...
No, it's good. I checked it, it's good.
All right.
We're both in it, sir. Why is it that we come out here time after time with our beloved rifles? This is my favorite rifle of all time. The M14, later converted into M1A. It looks like a real rifle. It's got wood and it's powerful. As you remember, the bullet went right through that big thick lead plate of Wade's. Remember? And that little wimpy guy did. Why do we do this, the Kingsley?
Just two reasons, Fred.
You got two? Okay.
They're called testicles.
Up. I guess.
What is over? Okay.
I guess you're right. Very few women come out here. I invite them every time we shoot. No, I like to shoot, and they're never there. But
if I were to offer a serious
I want
answer,
to.
I enjoy Fred's company. Like he's bright and articulate, and I enjoy that very much. Also, there's a little rivalry going on with shooting. We often have contests to see who can be the best shot with targets and adding up scores.
Yeah.
And probably on the more serious notes, I think that I'm interested in the school of thought that if a populace like us stays armed, that can offer a defense to A, common burglars and criminals, and B, even to an invading army. And I don't want to overreact, but there is a country that's been doing this now for centuries, and it's worked out really well for them.
And that would be Switzerland. And Canada. And what do they have in common? They don't mind other countries' business. They mind their own. They don't act as world cop. They don't send military forces all around the world like a certain country we know called the U.S., which has 904 bases all around the world, large and small, mostly small, but 100 or so big ones. I could name a few. But this is not the policy of peace. This is the policy of world aggression. And so ISIS comes to chop our heads off or blow up our buildings. And it's blowback.
So it may seem counterintuitive that we as Americans be holding guns and saying we support peace and non-interventionism, but ironically, to be neutral, to have a neutral foreign policy and mind your own business, you've got to defend yourself at home.
Yes.
And keep the guns in your borders instead of meddling in other people's business.
Exactly. And by the way, Switzerland, everyone's armed to the teeth. And the government even sponsors monthly competitions, as you know, because you've been there recently. That's a true statement, right?
I don't know if they sponsor monthly competitions, but I will tell you what I did see firsthand from personal observation. I did go to Switzerland. I went shooting down in the basement of a gun store where they had a little range.
Yeah.
And I was shooting with what I would describe as a young guy, like 27 years old, and we shot pistols.
Yeah.
And we took turns shooting at the targets. And when he shot, he kind of like crouched forward like this. And bam, bam, bam. And then we pulled the target towards us. He had a really tight little, he was a really good shot. Good, accurate shooter. And me, the same gun, bullets are like all over the place. And, I practice shooting regularly, so I think that shooting is a tradition in Switzerland. And I think it's widely known that they are good shots, and that if anybody even thought about invading Switzerland, that it would be like trying to go after a porcupine with bristles sticking out, and you'd be in for big trouble.
The German High Command in World War II gave it a thorough look over. What would it cost us in terms of treasure and lives to take Switzerland? Oh, we can do it all right, but it would have taken about 1.5 million men, and it wasn't worth it to them, because they were already letting them run trains through their country. I don't think they allowed them to stop, but they let them go through. So Switzerland has had a neutral foreign policy. I think we should have one too. What do you think?
I think that it might be possible. I've recently been writing the script for a documentary on Americans and Swiss discussing a neutral foreign policy. And, I have Americans in the video talking about what they think about a neutral foreign, and then Swiss people saying what they think. And someone goes, I should do a little research on what these people are talking about, especially the Swiss. So I've been researching the history of Switzerland's neutral foreign policy and how it came to be. And I'll tell you what I've read. I wasn't alive then, but what I've read is that centuries ago, like in the Middle Ages, oh man, the Swiss weren't neutral at all. They were mercenaries.
Yes.
And they had like these enormous long pikes.
Yep.
And they go around to foreign countries for like kings or stuff, and they just slaughtering people. And they were feared and horrible. And then in 1515, in an Italian town called something like Marignano, epic defeat. The Swiss lost. And evidently at that time, that was the start. But they started thinking, maybe we should be neutral. And then, there are a few more developments over time, but the big picture is that there was a transition from being very militant with mercenaries like Blackwater to becoming a neutral country that's respected and loved around the world. And I can see a path for America doing the same thing now, because we have a very militant foreign policy, we have mercenaries, and we're ripe for a neutral foreign policy.
If by some odd coincidence Ron Paul's son Rand were to be elected, they'd kill him first. But anyway, if he were to be elected and said we're going to have a non-interventionist foreign policy and sell all those damn bases and bring all those troops home and remove the excuse for any Arab to say he's on our precious land, and then he would remove any excuse for blowback. And then he would discharge most of them, but then the rest of the defense force would be literally defense and not offense. It would defend the U.S. up to about 100 miles out. And that's what I think ought to happen. And all we need is enough people to understand the wisdom of that. And by the way, this is not being isolationist. We're advocating free trade with all. Right? Isn't that part of it, the other half?
Yeah, if I were to embellish your fine thinking, Fred.
Free trade with all.
Well informed. And that's exactly what the Swiss people said when I was over there interviewing them. They said, trade with the whole world.
There you go.
And if I were to paint in your mind another parallel between Switzerland and America, they seem to think that the geography of Switzerland plays a role in their neutrality because they have the Alps protecting them in the south, a very high mountain range, and in the north, another range of mountains called the Jura, or Jura. It's J-U-R-A. In America, we have the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
That's right. That's exactly right. And we have more than that. We have the international press. We have electronic surveillance. We have individual eyes on all this. We have people with cell phones now. There's no excuse to have this rampaging worldwide group.